Okay. I think I'll read back a little bit. Yeah, I'll be read back a little bit here. Okay. See here. Okay. Abdullah felt his heart pound. He felt as though he was on the verge of blacking out. He just couldn't believe the words that came out of the driver's mouth. Ahmed said to the driver of the rig, "You're just testing us, aren't you, brother? You're trying to see if we will agree with you so you can kill us, right? You're testing to see who is out of Islam, right?" The driver didn't say anything, but just looked straight ahead at Daniel's trailer. He then said, "Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I'll let you decide, okay?" The Muslim on the bottom bunk, still angry to hear that the ink of the scholar was more sacred than the blood of the martyr, according to Muhammad, said as he writhed in pain, "If a prophet makes one prophecy that is wrong, he is a false prophet according to Deuteronomy, the Torah. Brother, you think Deuteronomy is still talking about Muhammad? If so, do you think the Son, after prostrating under the throne of Allah, quote, asks permission to rise again, unquote? It has to be metaphor there. You'd say, has to be, right?" Abdullah peered over the edge of the bunk and shouted down at the wounded Muslim on the lower bunk, "I'm not going to even think it's metaphor. How about that? I'm not even going to think a stone running off of Moses' praise unto him, clothes to be a metaphor either. And what is so wrong with a stone or rock running off with Prophet Moses' praise be unto him, clothes even? Allah showed the people that Moses, praise be unto him, had no defects and nothing to hide, but his beautiful character and modesty was the reason why he covered himself." The driver then shouted, Where does it say that was the reason why Allah had him run off naked and angrily at the stone? If Moses was as modest, we want to believe. Then why did Allah expose him to show there was no problem with his private parts? Does that make sense, brother? Does it? You don't see this as an insult to Prophet Moses in his modesty? And for one thing, if Moses was truly modest, he wouldn't have run after the rock like a crazy guy and would have waited for someone to bring something to hide himself with. Also, being a leader of people, he'd probably wonder why the hell Allah would be concerned what others thought of Moses' private parts. I mean, I would. Wouldn't you? "You are testing us, aren't you, brother?" asked Abdullah on the top bunk. "You are testing us, right? Because you know that if the hadith says that the stone ran, then we say the stone ran, right?" As the drivers remained silent, the Muslim, Ahmed, sitting in the passenger seat, said, "You are testing us, aren't you? You will suddenly say you're joking if we pull guns on you to kill you, right? That's it, isn't it?" "I think he's joking," said Abdullah. "Is that what you think?" asked the driver. "Is that what you think? Is that what you think?" asked the driver coldly. Thinking the driver was acting, Ahmed gulped and said, "I believe the rock ran off with Moses' clothes. Things are different back then. Things were different back then, and there were miracles. I don't find this hard to believe, and I don't think it was Allah trying to embarrass Moses. He had people to lead. This was to keep down rebellion." The driver asked with her anger and hurt in his voice, "How does having Moses angrily running naked after a rock, keep things in order to you, brother?" Ahmed just sat there, trying to think of an answer. The driver said, "It's sad. We really have no answers for these questions covers bring to us, do we, brothers?" Ahmed slowly picked up a gun and pointed it at the driver and said, "You are joking, aren't you? You are testing us to see if we will agree with you, so you can kill us, right? I bet that's it, said Abdullah. He is testing us. He will shoot us. He'll shoot one of us if we agree with him, won't you, brother? That's it, isn't it? You know, I think I already read this part. I think it bounced back up. Well, I'll see here. No, doesn't look okay. Let's see here. It's much like the one I last. Okay, I'm gonna have to change because it's redundant here. Okay. The driver said, "It's sad. We really have no answers for these questions Kafars bring up to us, do we, brothers?" Ahmed suddenly picked up a gun and pointed it at the driver and said, "You're joking, aren't you? You are testing us to see if we agree with you so you can kill us, right?" "I bet that's it," said Abdullah. "He is testing us. He will shoot one of us if we agree with him, won't you, brother? That's it, isn't it?" The driver just stared straight ahead with an angry expression on his face. He then said in a whisper, "Muhammad said he traveled by night on a flying donkey-like thing and visited two structures that never existed at the same time together. You do the math of what I believe in, okay? You do the math." Ahmed closed his eyes slowly and brought the gun down. Even though he was now no longer pointing it at the driver still looked bothered from what now sounded like deadly stupidity to him. "What did he say?" asked Abdullah, reading something off of the internet. "Nothing," said Ahmed with despair in his eyes. "Nothing at all." "Good," said Abdullah. "By the way, I found something by a Muslim scholar about why Solomon was able to talk with the ants. You want me to read any of it, brothers? I think it will increase your faith." "Okay, read it," said Ahmed with a monotone in his voice. "Okay, read it." Abdullah said, "I want you to know, brothers, that we are talking about a miracle here. If Muhammad can run after a rock that was taken off with his clothes to show his modesty, Moses," said the wounded Muslim on the lower bunk, feeling as if he were in hell. "Moses said that." Abdullah then said, "Well, Moses then. Well, if Moses could angrily run after a rock like that, then Solomon, hearing the communication of ants, is nothing." The driver thought, then said with undetected sarcasm, "You know, I think you actually might have something there." Abdullah then read the title of the article on the net and asked, "Do ants communicate acoustically?" Here is the verse. Quote, Until they came unto the valley of the ants, and ant said, O ants, enter your dwellings, that you not be crushed by Solomon and his soldiers, why they perceived not." Hearing that, the driver then responded with, "Who knew ants knew the names of world leaders, were, or even knew about the concept of being crushed by giant feet?" Abdullah read on with, "So he, Solomon, smiled, amused by her message." Abdullah became happily excited and said, "It said her, brothers, and all ants you see are female. That, my brothers, is a Quranic miracle right there. Isn't Allah great? Ants are female, just like science says. This is proof that the Quran is clear science. Ants are female." "Right, which the Bible said first in Proverbs," said the driver. Abdullah then read, "And Solomon said, O my Lord, order me that I may be grateful for your favors, which you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to do righteousness of which you approve, and admit me by your mercy into your righteous servant." Ahmed asked as he looked down at the stick shift of the Kenworth, "And the ants understood that?" So the question is, quote, "Do ants communicate acoustically?" asked the Muslim on the top bunk. "No," said the driver softly, trying to be calm. A better question is how does an ant understand human speech enough to know who King Solomon is and the concept of being stepped on? How come I bet that question won't be asked? Abdullah went on with, ants communicate acoustically as well as through odor. That absolutely ends the argument right there. Think again, said the driver, angrily, thinking he wasted all his life pulling out prayer rugs and sticking his patootie in the air. Abdullah read on with, but to take it even a step further, scholars of hermeneutics, ooh, hermeneutics, big word. So it has to be true, said the driver in a whisper. So it has to be true. Of hermeneutics have stated that due to the verses preceding Quran 18 through 19, it can be strongly adduced that these are winged ants or possible winged termites. Oh, so termites can understand human speech and vice versa as well, asked the driver sarcastically to himself. Ahmed heard him say that and looked at the driver as if the driver was eating his snot. The driver turned to Ahmed and is in the seat across from him and said, I heard the words like hermeneutics and adust, so it has to be true. Ahmed looked shifty-eyed and scared while Abdullah read on with, in verse 27:16, which is 2 verses before the topic of this discussion, Solomon states words in Arabic saying, we have been taught the mode of communication for those things which fly, birds, etc. The word tar in Arabic literally means to fly, as the words for bird and airplane also derive from the same root of tar. In the Arabic language, Ahmed looked down, feeling depressed even more, and said, brother, it sounds like the scholar is using a snot of words to hide the fact that Solomon was able to hear and understand ants, and ants knowing that he was a human named Solomon. It's not working. Can't you find a better scholar to discuss this passage in Quran, please? I haven't finished, said Abdullah with some anger in his voice. And he then read, this is the opinion of Ash Shab. Who? Who? Asked the driver. Who is he to know anything? Remember, brother, said Ahmed on the verge of being sarcastic himself, if you need to know anything dealing with Islam, you ask scholars, or you ask those who have read before scriptures. As Abdullah read how ants had sometimes 2 wings and started then have 2 wings and started 2 wings, then of 2 wings and yeah. As Abdullah read how ants had sometimes 2 wings, and then started reading on and on of how ants and swarms with their mating habits somehow meant they communicated acoustically, and thus the Quran was true, with Solomon able to communicate with talking ants in an acoustic auditory manner, the wounded Muslim on the lower bunk was now moaning more from mental anguish rather than from the bullet wound. The driver then whispered, with a serious look in his eyes at Ahmed, this is sad, brother. Really sad. A few minutes later, Abdullah read off the computer screen. Now, do critics of Judeo-Christian background have anything to stand upon when they make this criticism about talking ants in the Quran? No. The word used in verses 18 and 19 of Quran 27 for communications are inflections. The word does not only mean to speak, but also to convey something or to make sound. In other words, said Ahmed in a near fit of rage and depression, it is saying ants were able to talk and be heard acoustically with Solomon, and vice versa. Hey, makes perfect scientific sense.